Now let's take the conversation further now. And joining me on the news at 10 is the UNICEF education specialist, Azuka Menketi. She joins me from Abuja. Thanks for joining us on the news at 10 tonight.
Thank you.
Now, we remember the African child around this time every year. Would you say we've progressed since that Soweto incident? I believe you watched the report that we had for you earlier on. What's your assessment of how we're doing with the African child?
At the moment, a lot has happened, a lot is happening, and a lot still needs to be done. Unfortunately, since 1976, like I said earlier, Nigerian government has done a lot. They're also doing so much, but then 10.5 million children are still missing education in Nigeria. And our concern in UNICEF is that the majority of these children who are missing education are actually girls. So it is unfortunate that what actually led to the massacre of the students in Soweto are still the same issues that we are dealing with right now in Nigeria: issues of access, issues of quality education, and issues of governance in the education system. But like I said earlier, much as a lot has been done, a lot also needs to be done, you know, because children are roaming the streets, children are not accessing their right to education, quality of education is nothing to talk about, and a lot of children are not in school because of several issues. We are dealing with issues of poverty, we are dealing with issues of socio-cultural practices, where children are taken out of school and taken to marriage, especially girls in northern Nigeria. We're also dealing with issues around direct and indirect cost of education. Parents are made to pay for education that is meant to be free. So a lot of issues that were, those children who died in the Soweto protest, that, issues around the poor quality of education, we are still dealing with such issues currently in Nigeria. But I must say that UNICEF Nigeria is partnering with the Federal Ministry of Education and Universal Basic Education Commission and the State Universal Basic Education Boards in northern Nigeria to address these issues. One of the key things that is being done now is that we are embarking on a massive enrollment campaign, and we're also collaborating with all sectors. We're collaborating with the legislators, we are collaborating with the executive arm of government to ensure that every part of this country, especially northern Nigeria, that people begin to value education, and especially education for girls. So this year, a lot is going to happen to address some of the issues that these students who were massacred in Soweto actually were fighting for. So we are actually looking at making sure that every Nigerian child is able to access his or her right to education, especially the girl child. Because a lot of girls are struggling with a lot of issues, especially in northern Nigeria. A lot of girls are not able to access their right to education because of issues within their context. And these are issues that, that of course it's not their fault. It's about the fact that they happen to come from a particular part of the country where a lot of dynamics, a lot of issues are actually competing with their right to education.
All right, I was actually just trying to get in another question to try and ask you in terms of how we can look ahead now. You find that on this same anniversary next year, we're hoping we're not going to be talking about these same set of issues. What would you like to see in the next 1 year done concretely now, let me say, with all the funding and all the partnerships that you're talking about? Because every year we come together and we talk about these issues like you've mentioned before. What would you like to see done immediately before the next anniversary next year?
When I listened to your documentary, I heard that, we all know that the current budget for education is just barely 6%. Our analysis has shown that in the past 15 years, education has not had more than 10% allocation within the general budget of Nigerian budget. So we want to see education prioritized in developmental issues in Nigeria. We want to see in-school infrastructures in place to address issues of classroom, issues of classroom ratio. Now, most schools in the rural areas are struggling with almost 1 to 120 pupils in a classroom. We're also looking at making sure, I'm also looking at ensuring that by the time we come back here next year, that structures are in place to make sure that teacher capacity is built so that we can deal with issues around teacher quality. We are also looking at making sure that by the time we come next year, that children are able to come to classrooms where they are safe, issues of safety and security for children, especially for girls. We are also looking forward to see that by this time next year, that we are not coming back to begin to also talk about the fact that 10.5 children in Nigeria, million children in Nigeria are not accessing their right to education. So we are hoping that in partnership with government, in partnership with all stakeholders, we are also partnering with traditional rulers, we are partnering with legislators, with the Senate, to ensure that everybody sees this as a collective responsibility, that the Nigerian child is able to access his or her rights to quality education in a secured and safe environment.
All right, thank you so very much, UNICEF Education Specialist Azuka Menkiti, for sharing your thoughts on the news at 10 tonight.